edition of the Sports Break here on RVNTV.tv. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and it's Friday, so you know what that means. It's almost the weekend, and more importantly, we have a guest in the studio, Mr. Cornell Thomas, all the way from up in Morris County, New Jersey. Welcome.
Thank you, Renee. Appreciate it.
I am so happy to finally have you on the show. I have been trying to track this man down for weeks. I feel like he's all over the place. You're a former high school basketball coach, former basketball player, and you are now a speaker and author. So let's start from the beginning.
From the beginning? Okay, that's a long time ago.
Back when you first started playing basketball, how did you get into basketball and sports in general?
Yeah, so we were talking before, I wasn't into sports. I played 6th grade baseball, and my freshman year I sat on the football team. And so I was 16 years old. My mom took us, she's a country girl, she took us to Bird's Nest, Virginia. Don't look it up on a map. Bird's Nest, Virginia is like this big.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on my cousin's bed, there's nothing to do. And I saw all these newspapers, and he was this big-time basketball player in Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so I'm reading these newspapers, and I'm like, man, this guy, he's the man. I had no idea they put kids in the newspaper. And then I look on his wall, and he had 50 senior pictures of the hottest girls I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, if I play basketball, I can not only be famous, but
wow.
I could possibly get a date. I said, this is great. And so we got home, and I got this little Pizza Hut ball, and I walked 2 miles to the court. And I decided to start playing basketball. What I didn't realize was that I was terrible at basketball. And there was a guy, that first day when I was shooting, just trying to throw the ball at the basket, this guy kind of walked out of the woods. I later found out his house was there, but he walked towards me and he goes, "My name's Ray, would you like me to show you how to shoot a basketball?" And he was the first person to show me how to properly shoot a basketball.
Wow, what a story. A random man pops up
out of the blue. It wasn't some creepy dude.
Nowadays, that happens, kids better run.
Hey, yeah, I don't want any candy. But after he showed me, he planted the seed in my head that I can get better, even though I was still horrible when he left. So I got cut from varsity as a junior. My junior played JV, sat JV. My senior year, sat varsity, played 2 minutes, got a couple high fives at the end of the game, that was it. And then I went to a junior college, Sussex County College, and I had to work because my family, we didn't have a lot of money. My mom raised us 5 kids on her own.
Right.
My father passed when I was really young. So I worked 2 jobs and I went to this junior college. And my freshman year, I got into the paper for the first time. Well, it wasn't me, it was my boy. I was behind him hey. But
well, you were there.
I cut it out, I put it on the refrigerator. And then my sophomore year, everything clicked. So I was first team all conference, first team all region, all this stuff. And people were always asking me, man, you're 4 years removed from being cut from JV.
Yeah.
I was like, well, while you guys were going to parties, while you guys were going to prom, I was on the court putting 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day.
So your original intention for why you wanted to play basketball may not have been great.
No.
And we were talking before the show, you didn't play any other sports prior to high school basketball, fully.
Yeah.
A little bit here and there.
No.
And you were also 5'6" and then shot up.
Yeah, I was 5'6" my freshman year. My mom is 5'2", my father was 6'3", but his father was 6'6".
Ah, okay.
And when I started playing junior college basketball, you hear this a lot, speakers say it a lot, my why changed. So instead of my why being, okay, I want to get a date and be famous, it changed to, I want to play professional basketball so this woman who has struggled and worked 3 jobs her whole entire life never has to work again.
Right.
So when that changed, everything changed. And so I got a scholarship to play in North Dakota, played at Minot State in North Dakota, met my wife there actually, came back home, and I'm 7 years removed now from being cut from JV.
Yep.
And I'm playing with NBA guys that are in Europe, and we're at this gym at Somerville, New Jersey, playing at this YMCA, and I'm getting my first real basketball lessons.
Yeah.
And so I got a contract to play in Lisbon, Portugal. Incredible. I was pumped up, excited, and 168 hours before I was supposed to leave, I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And so when that happened, people think that life is a straight line. It's not. There's a lot of different turns and different mountains you're going to go up and down. So when that happened, I had to figure out, okay, now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so I was in complete why me mode. So when adversity happens, we're like, I can't believe this happened to me, blah, 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 blah. And I started thinking about my mom. I said, man, this woman grew up, raised us by herself with no money, 5 of us, and she never made excuses. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit here and cry about it? Or are you going to pick yourself up? So I worked myself back to almost 100%, and my old coach called me, and I had a coaching opportunity at my old junior college. He said, will you coach? And I said, no. I said,
why would I coach?
I said, absolutely not. I'm 26 years old. Like,
yes.
And I had this huge chip on my shoulder because people used to tell me how bad I was all the time.
Right.
So anybody that said I couldn't do anything or
yes.
I assumed they meant I couldn't do something, I just added to the chip. And after a while, my girlfriend and my mom was even like, you'd be a great coach, you should coach.
Yeah.
So I started coaching Sussex County College and had all these kids, inner city kids from Maryland, and it was a great experience. I moved over to Blair Academy after 6 years, and I was coaching with Coach Montagna, who's, has had NBA players and players nationally known. So I started doing that, and about 5 years ago, my son was about to be born, and I was on social media, and it was the most negative stuff that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It wasn't even during an election, which was crazy.
Right.
So I'm reading it, and it's just like, OMG, I hate my life. Like, people just the first world problems.
Right.
And I was like, I'm so sick of waking up and seeing negative things. I want to change what people see.
Yeah, and I love that because you came from, your path to where you are today, like you said, was not straight and narrow. Yeah. And a lot of people assume that you have to be a player, you're going to go play professionally in college, then from there maybe you'll coach and train and just kind of ride that wave all the way to the finish line. Yeah. Whereas you went a whole different path to find what you really enjoy doing. Yeah. And that motivation started back with your upbringing. And then now you were able to turn around and give that back to players you coached and now even beyond that.
Yeah.
So we won't go too much into that just yet.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
But you have a phenomenal story. You found love in college. You did everything to try to help your mother out, who you saw struggling as you were growing up. And now today you are helping a lot more people beyond just your family. So when we get back from this break, we're going to talk just about all the motivational things and encouraging things you're doing. We'll be right back.
Didn't know, couldn't see what was around the corner from me. Let's go. Check me out, my legs are moving. Hands real smooth, gotta keep it moving. Take it fast, take it slow. Sing it all day, come on, let's go. Can't get enough of these crazy moves. Slide on by, now that's so smooth. Throw your hands up in the air. Bounce on down, down your hair. You stop, now that's real nice. You feel me? Come on, get loose. Come on, let's go,
La Esperanza Mexican Restaurant and Bar, the best authentic Mexican restaurant in South Jersey. Your friends and family will enjoy the fun and the food, like our staple guacamole, tamales, and ceviche. Our weekday lunch special is just $7.99. We also offer Saturday and Sunday brunch. Enjoy the largest selection of tequilas in South Jersey, Mexican beers, bottle and draft beers, fresh margaritas, and daily beer and margarita specials. La Esperanza Mexican Restaurant and Bar, family owned and operated since 2002.
Hi, I'm Becky.
And I'm Eric.
And this is Cooked and Uncorked.
It is.
It is. And you can check us out Mondays at 10:30.
10:30 every Monday.
See you there. Got a quarter?
Welcome back to the Sports Break. I'm your host, Renee Washington, joined by our guest in the studio today, Cornell Thomas. And he was just telling us about his background playing basketball, shooting up from 5'6" to eventually being 6'4", and how he got into coaching. And he's perfect to have in the studio today because on Tuesday, when I was here, we talked about some pretty serious stuff. We talked about everything going on with social justice in sports and some of the different racial discrimination, different things that are going on negatively affecting our world. Mm-hmm. So here you are, Mr. Positivity, and you saw negativity firsthand on social media and decided to do something about it. You put pen to paper and you started making a difference one book or one article at a time. Yeah. So talk me through that process.
Yeah, well, I think what you're talking about, the landscape of just not just sports but our country, mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people talk about let's make change or etc. My thing is I call myself like an actionist. Like I want to actually take action towards it.
Activeness, I like that.
So when I started seeing the negativity, I was like, okay, well, I had this book called literally the Book of Positive Quotes. And started taking a quote out and putting it on social media every day.
Okay.
And people started liking it. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And one day I woke up and I couldn't find the book. So I wrote my own quote.
Yeah.
And people still liked it. So I was like, I'll forget the book. I'm just going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months went by and a buddy of mine was like, dude, you should write a blog. I'm like, that's great. What the heck is a blog? Like, I never even wrote. It's like, what's a blog? So he's like, I'll set it up. So set the blog up and I wrote my first blog, which was called Risk. And I started seeing how powerful our words are.
Yeah.
And people would read them from all over the country and the world and Vietnam, and people would reach out to me and say, this meant this to me.
Wow.
So I wrote my first book called The Power of Positivity, Controlling Where the Ball Bounces. And it was kind of my story and people that have influenced me. But once I wrote the book, I was like, I want to go out and start spreading this message.
Yes.
So I decided to go out and start speaking. The first group I spoke in front of were like 14 people at a dance studio, and they're all eating. You know, like it was literally like my first. I was like, oh, okay. So my only mission here is to make them stop eating.
Right.
You know, and
make them pay attention.
Make them pay attention. My first check, I went to Centenary College in Hackettstown, and it was like in front of like 15 students, and I got like $100. I said I would never cash this.
Right.
Because I always want to keep this here to remind me, like, this is where you started from. You know, you can always go back here. So I started really small and then built my way up, and now I'm getting a chance to travel a lot of different places.
Right. So now you have 3 books, and the latest book actually has a picture of your adorable son on the front of it.
Thank you.
Extraordinary, the distance between good and great.
Yeah.
What is kind of the purpose and what is your focus behind every book that you write now?
Yeah, it's mindset. Because life isn't as hard as we make it. We're phenomenal at making life really difficult.
That's true.
but and it's all of us, you know. So what I was saying to you before we start filming is that, man, when I talk about positivity, I don't talk about the absence of human emotion.
Right.
You know, if your dog dies, it doesn't mean you have to skip around with it and be happy.
Right.
Like, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to mourn. It's just you can't live in the negativity.
Yes.
So this book is all about the separator, which is our mind. You know, I heard someone say the distance between good and great is the distance between your left ear and your right ear. It's all in your mind. It's your success. So it's not just thinking it; it's actually applying it and working towards it as well. So that's what my book is all about. It's about mindset, and I write it in layman's terms so anybody can pick it up and get some value from it.
Yeah, and I actually just heard a good quote the other day. I know I'm not going to have the exact, but it was something to the effect of, peace is not the absence of adversity and struggle, but it's being able to be calm in the midst of all of that.
Yeah.
So being able to still have a positive mindset, being able to still be happy and find how you can make the most out of the situation you're in, whether it's dealing with a hurricane or something extreme like that, dealing with something tragic that you're personally facing, or even just getting cut from the varsity team.
Yeah.
So for you, how have you really taken that message, and when you go out and talk to people and the feedback that you get, how have you really tried to spread that in what you're saying besides just writing about it?
Yeah, well my favorite thing to do is speak.
Yes.
I love interaction. So I was in England a couple weeks ago, and I was in LA the week after, and I'm going all these different places. And just 2 things that I realized between all of us.
Right.
We're all human.
Yes.
And we all go through adversity and struggle. Struggle doesn't know color. Struggle isn't racist. Struggle is struggle.
Right.
It's just we go through different struggles. Right? So what I talk about a lot is gratitude. The number 1 combatant of negativity is gratitude. Because people are like, well, I don't have this. Well, you just caught me on your iPhone.
Right, so you do have that.
You have something, you know.
Exactly.
You have food in your stomach. You have a roof over your head.
You're talking to me, so
You're
you're
talking
alive.
to me. You're alive. You have your limbs.
Yeah.
You know, so and it's hard for people to grasp that. You know, but I always, whenever I have like a negative thought, or if I feel like I'm in a bad place, I think about, man, what do you have?
Right.
Right? You know, so when I go out and speak to people and I see that we have these similarities everywhere I go, I'm like, man, if we can all just understand and have empathy for one another and realize that, man, life can be so much easier if we just work on this. This is your muscle.
Yes.
You know, like you're a high-level athlete. You can work your legs, you can work your body. How many players do you remember that were great on the practice field, then they play in the game? Poof.
Where'd they go?
Houdini, right?
Exactly.
Houdini, because their mindset. You got to work on this every day.
Yep.
So I work on this every single day.
Yeah, and I love that message because, like, I know for me as a player, I still, even now when I'm coaching, anything that I'm doing when I'm also interacting with people is getting them to understand that if you don't bring it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You can have all the tools in the world. If you don't use them, you're not going to be able to make anything happen.
Yeah.
So understanding that, yes, things may happen to you, but how are you going to react to them? You can let everything you can let all the frustration and adversity in the world happen to you, and it will happen at some point.
Sure.
But how are you going to turn around and respond to it? Are you going to be someone that is depressed and upset? Why me? Woe is me? My life is awful. I miss that. I'm too skinny. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm too fat. Whatever it is. Or are you going to turn around and try to do something about it?
Yeah.
Whether it's intelligence, athleticism, socially, whatever that case may be, how can you adjust to what you're doing? So I love that message. When we get back, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the people that you've had to interact with and maybe people that you've touched that you really didn't expect would respond the way that they did, since we're talking about responding. So we're going to take one more quick break, and then we'll be right back with Cornell Thomas.
Hi, I'm Jim Cucinato. I'm inviting you to watch my show on the Halo Health Network on RBN. We cover everything you always wanted to know about health but was afraid to ask. We have interesting guests who can help you how to live healthier, how you can be smarter about your health, how you can help your family live healthier and be healthier. We are on Tuesdays from 9:30 Eastern Time to 10 o'clock. Please come and watch us.
If you have a story or product that you'd like to share with our viewers as a guest on the Morning Coffee Show, please contact us at info@radiovisionnetwork.com.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Welcome back to the Sports Break. I'm your host, Renee Washington, here with Cornell Thomas, speaker, author, former basketball player, professional basketball player overseas, and former basketball coach. And he has talked about how his journey from sports, something we discuss a lot on our show, his journey from sports took him to be able to now impact the world in a positive way. So in his latest book, Extraordinary, The Distance Between Good and Great, he was endorsed by Tony Robbins. And I'm talking about you in third person like you're not sitting here. But talk to me about why he decided to endorse your book. I mean, that's phenomenal that he's here, he's a part of this book.
Yeah.
And why did he decide to be a part of the book?
Well, it started 5 years ago. And
Okay.
I'm telling you, man, people always see the destination, they don't see the journey and the process. But it started 5 years ago. When I started writing quotes, I would send Tony a quote every day. So on Twitter, I just send him a random quote, and every once in a while, he'd retweet it. And so it was funny. I wrote down my 2015 to-do list. I wrote down I want to meet him in person because I want to see what he's about.
Yeah.
Humans don't make me nervous.
Right.
Everybody's the same to me. No one's above me or below me.
Right.
So I wanted to see what he was about. And back about 2014, I had someone that was following me on Twitter and like retweeting a lot of stuff. And I asked her I was like, not to be creepy or weird, but can you send me your mailing address? I want to send you something.
Yeah.
And her address was in Vietnam.
Okay.
So I sent her my first book. And like a week later, she posted this big, I didn't tell her I was sending it. She posted this big thing. Cornell, thank you so much. Me and my husband, we're going through this rough thing and this changed our lives. And so flash forward to 2015, she messaged me and said, if I sent you to this Tony Robbins, or bought you this Tony Robbins ticket, would you go?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I can't put you out like that.
Yeah,
because I know they're super expensive.
Nice, but yeah.
And she's like, as easy as it was for you to send me that book, that's how easy it is for us to send you to this event. So I talked to my daughter was 6 months at the time, so I contacted my mom, said, Mom, could you stay at the house while I go? Because I don't want to get stabbed in my sleep. And, is that good? So I cleared my wife said, hey, go. And so I went to the event, and literally the first question he asked that first day, Date with Destiny, I raised my hand, 3,000 people, he just called me, I stood up, we talked for 10 minutes, and then afterwards I said, I would love for you to write the foreword for my book.
Yeah.
But because he signed, I think it was with Simon & Schuster, he couldn't write the foreword, but I was like, would you write the testimonial? It took a year to get the testimonial.
Wow.
But I'm relentless. You know, so I'm like, I know it's meant to be, I know it's gonna happen. But it all happened from me giving something to someone without expecting anything back. And that's the law of compensation. When you give without wanting anything back, you get double. So giving to this woman who's now a friend, giving to her and her family, then that ticket was it's like $9,000. Wow. My book's $1,150.
Wow.
You know, so that was a really powerful story.
So your book and the words and things, the messages that you had in your book, I mean, financially, $11.50 does not match up to $9,000.
Not at all.
And where she was in her life,
Yeah.
the words in your book, in her opinion, were the equivalent of being able to give you that ticket.
Yeah.
And that just shows you just how powerful words really are.
Sure.
I mean, we're thinking dollar for dollar that why would you give somebody $11.50 in exchange for $9,000?
Yeah.
But for where she was in her life at that point, getting that message from your book, that inspiration, those words of encouragement to help her get through that adversity, was equal to giving you a ticket to go see him.
Sure.
So, what are some other stories that you've come across?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so great to hear this. I mean, especially since on Tuesday I was talking about this on my show.
Yeah.
And here you are, someone that's out there not just putting pen to paper, signing off on laws and things like that. You're actually out there talking to people, interacting with people,
Yeah.
encouraging them to understand how to get through those tough times. So what's another story that maybe you've come across?
So I have so many, and it's not.
You'll be here forever.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that have been able to inspire, but another story that sticks out to me because I'm going to Japan in November. And
Okay.
This is the reason for it. So I have a friend, Krishna Santi, who's like a really good friend of mine now. But we were just talking ironically about Periscope.
Oh, yes.
So
we
I
were.
was Troll Central.
Yes. Gosh.
I was on Periscope, and he came in. I used to do this late night question and answers. People would ask me whatever, and I'd answer it. So he came in, and he had a question about just life and mindset. So I said, you know what? Message me, and we'll talk later. Me and him talked for like an hour and a half, and it's a 16-hour difference.
Oh, yeah.
So I was up we finished at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
That next day, which unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. That next day, he got his whole business. He got this check that completely turned his business around for the better. And he equated that to our conversation.
Right.
So he was like, just recently, he's like, Cornell, I want you to come to Japan and speak. I've written down in my to-do list, go to Japan and speak.
Wow.
So him and his wife are setting it up so I can go out there and speak at this big event. And just it's amazing. It's just from
incredible.
Just talking. So when people reach out to me, they're surprised how quickly I respond back.
Yes.
Because it's authentic. When I say reach out to me, if you have no one in your life, I'll be that person.
Right.
So that's another story and I've had kids that have reached out, like, it makes me feel old, but like I told them things when they were in high school, and now they're adults and they're in the business world that have contacted me and said, Mr. Thomas, this has helped me so much, or this has changed my life. And I have a business, Crossroads Basketball. We train kids at AAU program, and now my kids are playing professional basketball. I have 3 girls that are playing in Europe professionally.
Oh, that's incredible.
So they were 15, 14 years old.
Yeah.
So
where can people find you then? I mean, you talk about how you get back to people, and I'm sure if anyone is actually watching and paying attention, you may be interested in reaching out yourself. So website, social media, tell us where you're at.
Yeah, so my website is www.cornell-thomas.com. Instagram, I'm at Cornell Thomas 34. Twitter, at Cornell Thomas. And Facebook, you literally just type in Cornell Thomas and I will pop up and reach out and I will contact you back.
Awesome. Now, the biggest thing that I love about this is how you talk about the power of words.
Yeah.
And so for you, in light of, there's always something going on in our country and even beyond. You're not just working within our country. You're traveling all over to Vietnam, now to Japan, to London. What is a message that you'd like to tell people for why and how they should be an actionist like you are? Be someone that can stand up and say, I don't like the way that you're talking to someone, or I don't like the way something is going. I'm going to make a change, a positive change. Yeah. Behind that. Yeah. So what is that message that if you could sum everything up, I know you talk a lot to people. Yeah. The key thing you'd want people to grasp.
Yeah. There's a saying that we all know, like, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything.
Yes.
And my thing is people are so afraid to speak out because they care what other people think.
Right.
Me personally, I don't care what other people think.
Yeah.
If there's an injustice, I'm going to speak on it. And that's the biggest problem with our country. Is we kind of sit back and we don't want to ruffle any feathers. Right. So when things happen that are obvious, we close our mouths and we stay shut. You not saying something is just as bad as the action that's happening. Yeah. And that's not everybody's us. Not everybody speaks out. Right. But man, you can say when something is wrong. And it's like, I think if we just started being able to have conversations with each other and not heated arguments and debates, the world will be a better place. Yes. The fact that I can sit down with my close circle, and it doesn't matter if you have different opinions, we can sit down and have an intelligent conversation. well, you might not agree with me at the end of the day. I might not agree with you, but we're not fighting and at each other's throats.
Exactly.
Stop picking teams.
Right.
Stop saying, okay, well, my side is this, my side, my party's this. No one cares about your party or your side. Start looking at each other as humans. I have a podcast, Population Unplugged, and this is what I talk about all the time. And I'm like, if people don't like it, just don't tune in.
Exactly. You don't have to listen.
You don't have to listen. But I'm real with people, just like,
Right.
just, as are you. That's why we get along so well.
Yeah, very true. Now, again, something that I've talked about is the elephant in the room, having the conversation that nobody wants to have.
Yeah.
And that is addressing these issues.
Sure.
And everyone growing up has learned that there's a bully, there's a person being bullied, and there's the bystander that doesn't say anything. And the bystander is just as guilty as the bully.
Sure.
So you're making some very good points on that. And unfortunately, we are running out of time here. So one more thing, what's next for you? I mean...
Okay, next for me, I am speaking next week in New Jersey somewhere, and then I know in first week of October I will be in Texas one day, and then the next day I'll be in LA, then San Diego, and then back to New Jersey. So I'm gonna be traveling.
I'll get your
over.
frequent flyer miles.
Yeah. It's gonna be it's crazy.
Jeez.
But doing a lot. So
Yes.
I'm speaking all over.
Well, thank you for being on our show.
Thanks for having me.
Honestly, I wish we could sit here forever because I should have you here on Tuesday too. These are the things that we as people beyond just America need to be talking about.
Sure.
And again, it's an intelligent conversation. It's not a debate. We're not leaving here angry or anything like that. And being able to have these tougher conversations. So, Cornell Thomas, you guys, you can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go to check out his website. Check out his books. He has great ideas, great words that he can put to meaning, and something that you can all grasp on regardless what you're going through, how old you are, what your background is. Everyone has something that they're going through, and Cornell Thomas is the man that can help you get through it. So I'm your host, Renee Washington. Thanks for joining us here on the Sports Break on RVNTV.tv. Again, we're always here Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 9 in the morning, right here. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday.